The year is 3081. You are in your mech on Earth, looking out towards Devil's Peak. The Word of Blake has holed up for its last stand at its command center. And now it's time for your final assault. The heavily cybernetic implant enhanced and highly fanatical Mane Domini pilots of the elite of the Word of Blake are going to be piloting their best mechs. You know that this could be your last night on Earth, and in this case, literally Earth, as you contemplate the upcoming attack. There's even rumors that the Word of Blake has resuscitated some ancient Star League failed projects, and there may be something even more monstrous than the Archangel lurking. And with that, let's talk about the Archangel. It's a 100-ton Omni-mech, sort of like a dire wolf. Omni-mechs, not only do they have the feature of being easily reconfigurable, which is mostly useless for a one-time tabletop game, but being more relevant, they have handholds that allow battle armor to be mechanized, transported along as, like, you can think of them as extra armor blocks and extra weapons pods, except they're battle armor. The only thing you have to be careful about is if you have 6 units of battle armor in a level 1 clinging onto your mech, that 6th unit will cover the front, center, torso, and will prevent any weapons there from firing. That becomes important with the Archangels. You just have to keep that in mind. A standard fixed piece of equipment on the Archangel is the improved C3 unit. That means if you happen to be going up against the Infernus Variant, then not only are you going to be in melee range with this beast, possibly engaged to a group of battle armor, but its friends will be raining missiles down on you from a distance. Next, imagine a blade that weighs many tons having been punched through the rear center torso of your mech and is now sticking out of the front. Or perhaps you were clever and painted a death's head on your atlas, thinking it would scare others away. But now your atlas's skull was dangling off the Archangel's spike. With the retractable blade, you can choose whether you do punch table, standard weapon, or kick table, and you also get a 2-point bonus on your to hit and use your piloting skill. Depending on what version of the battle value upgrade tables you are using based on piloting and gunnery skill, on some versions of the table, the piloting skill is cheaper to upgrade than the gunnery skill. So it's cheap to upgrade the piloting skill and make the blade more effective. But whether or not you upgrade the Archangel's pilot in any way, which you don't need to, the Archangel just straight up is a powerful zombie. And if for some reason you managed to make it here to this video and didn't know what a zombie mech was, well, it's a mech that has no ammo, so it's hard to blow up, and it often has lots of energy weapons in its center torso or head or side torsos, so you have to, it's not enough to blow off its arms, it's not enough to blow off its left and right torsos. You have to completely obliterate it, otherwise it can still fight. Except the Archangel is special among zombies, other than the fact that it's a 100-ton zombie, unlike an Awesome, which is a mere 80-ton zombie. The Archangel is extra zombie. And that's because it doesn't have a normal engine or normal gyro. It has a compact engine and a compact gyro. On most mechs, a compact engine and a compact gyro, or even just either one of the two, is a bad move, but not so for the Archangel. If you're paying extra weight to have a compact engine and a compact gyro, which is what you do, it better have a pretty damn good benefit to be worth it. Consider, let's say, for example, you put a compact engine and a compact gyro on, like a Locust or something. Well, that wouldn't make any sense because the center torso just doesn't have enough internal structure, so you don't get much benefit out of it. Somebody's just going to core out the center torso and your mech is gone. But larger mechs, when their center torsos start getting hit, they might get taken out not from the center torso getting cored out, but by the engine or the gyro getting multiple critical hits. And that's where the compact engine and the compact gyro suddenly serve a purpose. But this is the important caveat. You must completely fill your center torso slots that are freed up with equipment. And that, of course, means lots and lots of ER medium lasers filling your center torso or other energy weapons. Do not use any ammo weapons. And if you're lucky, these weapons will soak up a lot of your center torso crits and keep you going far beyond what any other mech could take. And if you have both the compact engine and the compact gyro, it means you're going to have a full 7 slots in your center torso. Now note, you do pay a significant penalty for this. The compact gyro is not that big a deal because it's 50% heavier, but instead of 4 slots, it's now only 2 slots. The compact engine, however, it's also 50% heavier, and that is a lot of extra weight. And instead of 6 slots, it's now 3 slots. And this is also where the primary function of the Archangel as a brawler rather than as a DPS support is key. You just need to have your maximum armor in some reasonable amount of zombie-ish weapons, and your IC3 unit and your buddies will be the DPS support that'll do all the damage. You just have to stay alive. That being said, as my personal opinions on the correct use of the Archangel, that doesn't mean that people have not made variants of the Archangel that are DPS oriented. And for those people, I just say, phooey on you. Or, well, maybe they're actually really good. They know what they're doing too. I mean, sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes if you don't understand what someone else is doing, it's because they're better than you, and you don't know why. So when someone comes in with a DPS variant of the Archangel, it's time to be scared, because they either don't know what they're doing, or they're totally badass and awesome. Now, there's the next part. Remember how I said the Archangel was an Omni and had special handholds that could hold on to, for example, Purifier battle armor? Well, that's how you make up for the fact that you're less combat effective because of the extra weight of your compact engine and gyro. And if you look at the Purifier Terra variant, that has no mimetic armor. It's just maxed out on armor, and it's got clan spec ER small lasers. And because you got 6 of them, because you are a Word of Blake, that means your Purifier Terra variant point has effectively the firepower of a rotary autocannon 5 if someone comes in close range. Also, because they come in 6-packs, it happens to cover all 6 of your front and rear torso locations. So your Purifier Terra pack essentially gives you an extra rotary autocannon 5 and extra armor packs all around you. But the best benefit might be to disengage the battle armor once you are at point blank with your enemy, rather than having it cling to you as armor packs. But first, let's go over the Archangel and the other celestial mechs. The Archangel is known as the top of the celestial mech collection. Lore-wise, the celestial mechs were designed by a mad scientist that was a fanatical devotee of the word of Blake. And instead of designing just one mech, he designed 6, and thus were born the Celestials. They are meant to be piloted by the Mane Domini, who are the elite, the hand of God of the word of Blake. They are specifically heavily implanted with cybernetics and other enhancements. The Mane Domini are also militarily separate from the rest of the word of Blake, and they have their own command structure and are considered like the top elite in the social hierarchy, almost like clan warriors. The celestial mechs often have a blade in one of their hands, usually the left hand. It's actually in the wrist and not the hand, so the hand actuator does not have to be there. Or the hand actuator can be damaged, but it does not affect the function of the blade, unlike on like a hatchet man or something where the hand actually is needed for the blade. The retractable blade can be retracted too, so you can use your hand normally, or it can come out to be a blade. Now note, it does less damage than a hatchet. It's mech tonnage divided by 10, but it gets a 2-point bonus on its to-hit rolls, whereas a hatchet only gets a 1-point bonus. The various Celestials all have different strange quirks and features that are specific to that flavor of Celestial, except they all have one common feature, and that's the small cockpit. Well, technically they also have another common feature, and that's the improved C3 computer, but pretty much almost all Word of Blake units have that, so it's not really anything special to talk about. The small cockpit enables you to fit a snub-nosed PPC in the head because you now have 2 free slots. This has the bonus of making your mech extra zombie and does not get blocked by that center torso power armor. The small cockpit penalizes you on your piloting checks, which I believe does not actually affect the blade hit, only like to check to see whether you fall down or take damage on falling. The small cockpit is a good reason to bump up the piloting skill on any celestial mech pilot. The Invictus has the heavy PPC for long range, a plasma rifle, which is basically like a flamer with a super long range for taking out infantry. It's got a Guardian for point blank fighting, and it's got the retractable blade for point blank fighting. The Dominus loses the blade and the plasma rifle, but it doubles up on the heavy PPCs, goes more PPC, more energy weapon. So this is kind of a standard combatant rather than a melee. The Infernus Variant is even more PPC oriented than the Dominus Variant, and you'll notice that most of its weapons are in its arms and its head, and only one snub-nosed PPC is in the center torso. This means it doesn't get degraded much even if it has battle armor on it. The Communist Variant is often like a MRM or MML launcher type thing, or other long-range missile type support unit. I'm not a great fan of this particular variant because even though it's got case, it's still kind of vulnerable with its ammo. It's not pure zombie. And so it's just, I don't like it, but maybe you might like it. The luminous version is almost, or is often has some long range PPCs on it, like lower power but long range weapons, and it's designed for sniping from a distance. The Archangel is an Omni, so it's easy to reconfigure, and I personally like making the Archangel Luminos still have its retractable blade to give it a little bit extra oomph at short range. Then there's the Infernus variants, which are usually like just sort of like luminous variants, except they're more specialized. Maybe they don't have jump jets anymore, just to have even more longer range sniping equipment. Except the Archangel Infernus also comes with a targeting computer, so the long range sniping just gets a little bit more edge. And then finally there's the Celestis variants. These are usually like experimental designs. Sometimes they're using like captured clan equipment and things like that on them. So let's see how these mechs actually do in battle sims and see if any of them stand out. For pure win rate, the Invictus and the Luminous are the best. Now I've actually significantly improved my code to give a little more information, as well as improving the various AI routines in the battles. Now the first set of numbers, that is 807, 807.2, that's just some internal database numbers for myself that helps me keep track of how good the calculations are. The wins all is the number as before. I'm only rounding to 2 digits now because the error is really in the 1% level anyway. And how I know that is if I repeat the round robin several times, I can get a small variation in the result. Sometimes it's that 0.83 on the Invictus might be 0.82, and sometimes it might be 0.84. But so the standard deviation is around on the order of 1%, so I don't bother showing more digits. The I represents how well it does against infantry. And in order to get a win, it has to actually obliterate the infantry within 30 turns. So if there's some strange feature that allows infantry to run away, or it runs out of ammo or something before it finishes killing the infantry, then that turns into a tie. It's very unlikely that an infantry is going to beat an Archangel, but an infantry might be able to somehow survive. The next column is the V column. That represents how well it does against VTOL. This is going against every VTOL, even like Warriors and Karnovs and whatever else. So if you don't win 100% of the time, like that one mech that only wins 95% of the time here, then what that means is there's something about this mech, maybe it doesn't have enough long-range weapons or something, or has too little ammo or something, that sometimes allows some VTOLs to survive. The next column, the L column, is how well does it do against light mechs. And that is what fraction of the time does it win. If it doesn't win 100% of the time, like the Invictus only wins 97% of the time, then somehow 3% of the time, maybe the light mech is escaping after it loses its weapons or something. But it's very unlikely to ever actually beat an Invictus. And finally, the last column is obviously assault mechs. Same story as before. I did not break out the mediums and the heavies because you can sort of interpolate in between, and this is going to be too busy if I show every single combination of vehicle and mech and whatnot. So I picked out infantry, VTOLs, light mechs, and assault mechs as interesting cases that kind of describe to you how a mech performs. Then, of course, I will show, well, what's the tonnage of the mech, and then I show the weapons profile. This is the actual damage done in the round-robin sims at all ranges up to range 25. So from range 0 against like infantry or something out to range 25, how much damage does it tend to do at various ranges in its fights? Then I do a little summary of the equipment on board, like compact engine, compact gyro, guardian, targeting computer, and IC3 for the Invictus. Then I will show the battle value. Then the speed fraction is what fraction of its battle value do I believe comes from speed factors versus other factors. Then I will also show the wins versus battle value, the battle value normalized win. So if something is winning a lot, but its battle value is too high, then that number will be lower. And I can see that the Invictus, the Luminous, and the Infernus are actually pretty good for their battle value efficiency. I also show the wins per ton and the wins per C-bill. Now, these all will be the same tonnage because they're all the same variants, so that's really more for comparing against other mechs and other mech designs. If you look through my videos, you'll find wins per ton, and so you can see whether or not, tonnage-wise, this is a good design or not. Then for C-bills, these are all very expensive mechs because they've got compact engines and compact gyros and various fancy features and high-tech weapons. So these are all C-bill inefficient. Now, earlier I said the Archangel was the stuff of nightmares. Well, there's actually one more, even more nightmarish mech that belongs to the Word of Blake than the Archangel. But before I get there, I have to take you back to the era of the Star League Civil War and the story of the Matar. The Matar was an attempt to make a 110-ton mech. When its legs wouldn't move because it was too massive, Ameris had the entire engineering team executed for incompetence. The clans took the Matar a little further and created the Stone Rhino. However, this is technically not a super heavy mech as it's only 100 tons. But what would motivate one more than being a religious fanatic that was at war with the whole universe, and thus was born the Omega. So I believe I have reconstructed the Omega with all its specs and armor allocations, so I'm going to go through them here with you. So it's got 3 Gauss rifles and 2 LB-10X autocannons. Because it's super heavy, it's got slightly different construction rules. For example, it allows 12 points of armor in the head instead of the usual 9. It also has 4 points of internal structure there. I have assumed that for the super heavy construction rules, we have 6 extra slots in each of the 3 torsos. That makes everything work out, and you can fit the Gauss rifles in the 3 torsos. And you also, of course, have case 2 in all the torsos. The left and right torsos each contain additional Gauss rifles, as well as lots and lots of autocannon and Gauss ammo. Now, the Gauss ammo does not explode when it gets hit, so though it has case 2 for the autocannon ammo, it's actually fairly safe because most of the time you might hit Gauss ammo. I've also done the battle value calculations here for you if you want to look at it. However, the value I come up with is a little bit higher than what it lists on Sarna as 3001 battle value too. I've also attempted to calculate its C-bill cost here, and I show you the calculation here. I had to make some assumptions about how the costs scale with super heavy mechs. And as far as covering the Omega, why did I do that? Well, perhaps I've got something up my sleeve. But I'm sure what you really want to see is an actual battle with the Archangel in it. And remember I told you perhaps I had something up my sleeve? Well, during the last apocalyptic stand, at the Word of Blake headquarters at Devil's Tower on Terra, there were 30 of these Omegas, and the Mane Domini were there with their best mechs, and that means Archangels and Omegas. Because this battle will represent the apocalyptic ending of the World of Blake, the battle has to be appropriately sized and appropriately apocalyptic. This fight represents one of the Omegas on the final battlefield. It has 2 Archangel Invictuses protecting it, as well as 3 mouse cats. And this is going to be roughly 20,000 battle value per side. That is slightly shy. Each side has about 15k battle value before adjusting for piloting and C3 networking, and 20k after adjustments. And what are mouse cats? These were the super optimized Catapult C1, C4, and K2, except converted into Word of Blake era mechs with the best possible tech. They were designed by one of our viewers named Very Silent Mouse. You may or may not find the discussion thread in one of the comment streams in one of the videos. I think it was either the Catapult or or a previous one with the Word of Blake modification, which didn't go that well at the time. We also have 2 Purifier Terra level 1s. I'm calling them squads here in the code, but really they're considered level 1s, which means 6 power armor units each. Then there's some Purifier squads again, which are Purifier level 1s. So there's 4 level 1s of power armor. That's 24 power armor units. Also included are 2 special Word of Blake modified coolant trucks. Now these are not standard Battletech units. These are my personal modifications to the coolant truck to bring it into the Word of Blake era. That is, I mostly just put endo steel on them and gave them a targeting computer and 2 additional flamers in their turret, which is now larger. Oh, and they also have fusion engines, and they are Omni vehicles. So they have got the Omni handholds to allow the Purifier squads, or Purifier level 1s, to hang on to them, and also use them for mechanized transport. And that was a pretty powerful defending force. Well, since this is the reconquest of Terra, the attacking force is pretty powerful too. Oh, and this video is just a cool video showing US Navy laser weapons. This video is a couple years old now, FYI. Pretty much everyone else is ganging up on the Word of Blake, except Merrick, who's helping them along. So even the clans are throwing in some little bit of help, and they've thrown in a Firemoth and some an elemental point. But the main force are a pair of king crabs pulled out from the old Star League stockpile by surviving members of the Com Guard who want their revenge against the Word of Blake. These are followed by a C3 networked set of 3 updated king crabs, the King Crab 008B, which has been captured from Word of Blake Protectorate worlds and have been intentionally reconfigured to be used in the retaking of Terra. And not to be outdone, the surviving members of Comguard, the clans, and the Inner Sphere are also trying out a special Zero Cat. Zero Cat is also another viewer's design, which he claimed was sort of crazy. Now, coming along with the Zero Cat, which is basically a catapult with 28 small lasers and a bunch of heat sinks, of course, is the elemental point riding on the Firemoth, a SRM jump platoon, which is riding along on a Karnov, and then a squad of Grey Death Legion standard power armor. The Grey Death Legion got obliterated but there were a few survivors who started up and became responsible for creating the standard power armor for the Inner Sphere, and that is now called the Grey Death Standard Squad. Without getting too far into the nerdiness, I do want to talk a little bit about the code, and that is, I've attempted to simulate Battletech. First, there's like a movement phase, like a reaction phase. There's a tag mode phase where only tag weapons are used. Then there's the standard weapons phase. Then there's a physical attacks phase. And then there's like an end phase where damage and heat are done. With the Catapult video and onward, I started implementing lance tactics. That is, mechs now no longer just fight as if they were fighting one-on-one battles, and instead actually pick and choose their actions in a smart way. When I say smart, you must understand that it's actually pretty primitive and crappy AI, but nevertheless, these are the strategies that I have implemented so far. And note, if a strategy fails, like there's no more air units, so an anti-air unit fails to find a target, it defaults to hunting the closest enemy. That is the first strategy. There are also 3 unusual strategies. There's the transport troops, the king of the hill, and the transport pickup. And this is because I'm planning on putting a terrain feature of some option at 0, so king of the hill just goes to the bridge and says, "Thou shalt not pass." All of these strategies only guide the movement phase and movement decisions of the mechs. Also, it's possible to carry infantry, and if the infantry is if your VTOL is in the right XY coordinates as the target, you can perform a halo drop if the infantry has jump capability. And if it happens to be powered infantry or power armor, then you kind of get this. This also means that the infantry itself has to be jump infantry and not like mechanized infantry or foot infantry. And this video has become way too long, so I'm going to put the battle report in a follow-on video, and you will see, I will talk through. I've also improved the text output, so now you can see every shot, at least the ones I hit, and significantly improved the text display, so it's easier to talk through. But before that, I want to see what people think, and what do you think will happen? Who do you think will win this battle? Word of Blake, or everyone else coming in to wipe out Word of Blake?